Hello, this is Matthew with Simplilearn, and today we're going to cover React with Redux. So with our session today, what we're going to go through is going to cover why you'd want to use Redux when you're building a React solution, what Redux is, what are the core principles of Redux, what are those pillars that drive what you would do in Redux, and then finally, what are the pros and cons of Redux. And after we've gone through the PowerPoint presentation here, what we're going to do is we're actually going to go through and actually do a demo of actually using Redux, so you can actually see how this would all look. So why would you use Redux? Well, the reason why you'd want to use Redux is that Redux actually understands and helps manage the state of an object. And Redux was introduced to help address some problems that you were having with React. So the state of an object stores values and properties that belong to components that could potentially change over time. So the state could be modified by actions in your network. There could be changes to the re-render of the component in the browser. The object could also then potentially store multiple properties. And then with Redux, it actually takes in and actually will create a large application that you could create with React and breaks it down into several components instead of having this massive number of states you have to manage. And so every time that an application will then switch from a current with React, you'd actually be then changing the states. And this is a really big problem. Because when you're doing that switching back and forth, there is the potential for applications to be re-rendered, which reduces the efficiency of your application. And so this is why Redux was introduced. So, what is Redux? So Redux is a way to be able to have a predictable state container for your JavaScript applications. And it'll allow you to run your applications in multiple different variants. So whether it's a client solution, a server solution, or a native app solution. And then more importantly, or one of the key elements that I like about Redux is that it's really easy to test. And so with Redux, you're able to manage the state of your tool. You can actually use it to work with any JavaScript framework or library. And you can actually then store the application and the components in a state store, which makes it easy to be able to manage the state of your application. So in simple words, Redux stores all the state objects in a single store and organizes it. It provides information about the current state of the application. Any changes in the state of the application can be described to the store by the user, and then it notifies any modifications made to the state of that application. So let's jump into the key principles of Redux. And there's three key areas I want to focus in. So the first one is that Redux provides a single source of truth. And that source of truth is being able to store the state of your whole application in an object tree in a single store. And this makes it easier for you to debug and inspect components of your application. It also enables you to be able to persist your app state for development and improve faster development cycles. The second principle is that its state is read-only. That's why you're able to describe more effectively what's happening because it is read-only. And this ensures that no events like network callbacks would create any issues with the code and the re-rendering of your application. And that object actions become then just plain objects. And then finally, changes are made with pure functions. And so what do we mean by this? So we can actually take actions and transform the state tree with pure reducers. And we'll go into a demo later on to show you this. But a reducer is essentially a function that accepts an accumulation value, and then it takes back and returns that as a new accumulation. And this allows you to have a single source of truth value. The user can return the new state objects instead of mutating to a previous state. The user can start with a single reducer, and as the app grows, it can then split off into smaller reducers. And then finally, the reducers just become functions. So let's talk about the pillars of Redux. And so there are three key areas. We have the store, the actions, and then reducers. And then the store itself is the actual main object that holds the application tree state. And there are four key states. There's get state, which returns the current state of the store. And when we actually run the demo later on, you'll be able to see that we'll be able to open up our terminal window and be able to get the state store from our terminal window. The second state is dispatch, and this is an action. It's the only way to update the application state. And here we have a action on a button change to actually change the state of the application. And then the final two are subscribe and unsubscribe. And these are ways in which you can actually change the listener to the state. So an action is a plain object that represents an intention to change the state. So with actions, you have payloads of information that send data back and forth to your application store. So you can send any kind of data that can go back and forth. And that actions must also have then a type field that indicates the type of action that has been performed. And finally, with reducers are specify how the application state changes in response to actions sent to the store. And so actions only describe what's happened, but don't describe the application state change. A reducer is a function that accepts the current state and an action and then returns a new state with the action performed. And then finally, you can use combine reducers utility, which can then combine reducers in an app into a single index. So let's look at the pros and cons of using Redux, because nothing is perfect. So a pro for working with Redux is that Redux provides a single source of truth, which is the store. So there's no confusion over where you're getting your values. This then leads to having a predictable and strict outcome. Redux is more stringent about how the code is organized. This makes it easier to onboard developers because there is a very structured way of writing Redux code. This makes it also then easier for the initial render, which allows you to make your solution really optimized as an experience. And then finally, developers can track everything that's going on inside the app in real time. The cons. So one of the big cons is there's no encapsulation. So you're using Redux to test out the code and the writing of your code, but the component itself can access data, and there is potential for security issues. You do have to use boilerplate code. So this kind of takes us back to the structured code format. It is strict in its setup, and it is memory intensive. So with that, let's go in and look at a demo of using Redux to reformat a React application. So in this demo, we're going to use React to show how Redux can work. First thing we want to do is go ahead and download Node.js. We're going to go to nodejs.org to get the latest download. The downloads are available in Windows, Mac OS, and Linux. You can also download and recompile the source code if you want. I encourage you to go with the latest LTS version. It's the latest stable version. There are other versions you can use, but that's the one you would want to use. I already have it installed, so I just want to show you how that looks. So I'm just going to go in and put node -- version. It's going to give me the version number, so that shows that it's installed. I'm going to also use npm, which is Node Package Manager, because we'll be using that. Validate that it's installed by doing node npm -- version. So, okay, so we're looking good. And we're going to go ahead and create a folder on our desktop. Normally you wouldn't put a project folder on your desktop, but this is just for an experiment. So we're going to call this one Redux React, because we're going to be taking a React project and we're going to show what it looks like as a standard project, and then what it will look like as a project that's being taken through Redux. So let's just move our cursor to the correct folder. And so we're going to go to cd redux react, and there we are. We're at the correct folder using our command prompt. You use terminal on Mac OS. So let's just type in npx, that's for our Redux, and we're going to do create-react-app. So we're going to create a default React app, and then we're going to also install Redux-app. And these are the two components that we need to be able to build out our solution. One is React, and it's ReactJS, and the second is Redux. And we hit return. And this is going to go ahead and download the latest versions of both of these applications and install them into the folder that we just created on our desktop. I'll just give that a moment. And so it's installing the different packages, React, React-DOM, React scripts, and there we are, have everything installed. Great. And these are just different commands you can use. And it's recommending that we select npm start to get everything up and running. So we're going to use Visual Studio Code to do most of our work here. VS Code is an open source solution for scripting. It's available on all leading platforms. It is from Microsoft, but it is open source. And there's just a ton of stuff here, but we're going to go ahead and we're going to open up the folder we just created on our desktop. And so here is Redux React app. And we're going to select that folder. And on the left-hand side, you'll see all the files from that folder. We're just going to get rid of the welcome screen. We don't need that anymore. You'll see there's some commands we can use. We can do Control plus. I'm not sure what that's called again. Anyway, it gets us to the terminal window. Not an exclamation point. So you'll see that in our project folder, we have all of the files we need for our solution. We have both the node modules and then the public files. The public files is just the application itself. So we're here on the index.html, you see the index file there. And we're going to actually show what this looks like inside of a as it's broadcast from a web browser in a moment. Now, we're going to create a very simple application here, and the application is going to look exactly the same in both just standard React and Redux React. It's the optimization that's going to be improved. So we just did npm-start. It's going to take us to localhost 3000. Give it a moment, and then we should get our floating logo showing that the application's up and running. There we are. We can go ahead and edit app.js to create our application. Okay, so let's go in and we're going to go into app.js. And we are going to create an application called newcomp.js. And we actually have some code that we've already created that you can download as part of this application. But we're just going to type in here, import React, and then component from React. So I'm going to pull in our React library, and we also import connect from React Redux, and that's the package that we're working in. We'll terminate the batch job, yes, and then I'll rerun npm install --save React Redux. And here we go. Takes a moment just to install that. So our goal here is to show how you can optimize your solution with Redux for the using the store and reducers in Redux. Again, the solution is going to look exactly the same. What's going to change is the performance of the solution. And this is what Redux gives you. All right, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to go in, we're going to type in class, newcomp, extends, component. And then we're just going to select our constructor, props. And then we want to add in the super props. And then this state equals, I'm going to have a message here, subscribe to Simplilearn. Very simple little app. Don't forget to save your work as you go along. And we're just going to apply some styles. Let's just apply some font style, make it italics. And we're going to make the color purple. And let's have a button that we're going to press, a button change equals this set state. Oh, sorry, get state. And we'll have a message that comes up basically saying, thank you for subscribing. There we go. We have our button. We'll change the state here in a moment. Very simple little application. And we want to run that on the screen. We just have some basic HTML for where we're going to place everything. We use a div tag for our app. Again, we're going to keep this really simple. And we're going to reference this styles for this H3 tag. And so our message is going to be subscribe to Simplilearn. It's all being created dynamically. We're going to use our style. We're going to add in a button. We have a on-click action. Subscribe. And oh, change too many S's. We'll save that. All right, save it. Now let's run that script. Go to ReactJS. And we're going to actually import that into our ReactJS script. Get rid of this. And then we'll extend the newscorp.js component into here. Play around font style here. And I'll render this correctly. And we'll pull in the text and styles. Again, it's a very simple little application. I'm going to pull in from News Corp. So we'll actually have a welcome screen, a welcome line, and then pull in the 2 lines of code. All right, let's run that. npm start. And here we go. Refreshes our page. So what we've just created is a basic standard state object. And let's see now. Oh, hey, this is good. And we actually can show you that we didn't actually write all our code correctly. So let's go back and fix that. It's newscomp.js, and we have to make sure that we have a correct export feature here, so that everything can be exported effectively. We have an import. We also need to have an export. All right, let's run that again. Okay, should take care of our problem. Hey, there we go. So welcome. And then we have the standard state object of subscribe to Simplilearn. We hit subscribe and we change the text to thank you for subscribing. Okay, so let's kind of go in and modify this now. So it goes from being a standard state object to one that uses store and reduces. So we're going to go ahead and terminate our batch job and essentially reset everything. And what we're going to do now is install Redux. This is what's going to help us. It takes a moment to install Redux. All right, so we have Redux installed. That's good. And now we want to start our package. And it looks the same, but now we're going to make some changes. So let's go to our index file, index.js. And here's our React DOM. Now we're going to add in cont store. So this is going to be our Redux store. So we're going to create a new store. And it's going to be a reducer. And we're going to pull in strict mode. Okay, reducer is not defined. Let's go ahead and define that. So we're going to come over to our new comp.js file. And what we want to do here is we're going to take out the one class file that we just created. And just kind of stripping it down here. Now let's go in and let's map our state to props equals state, and we're going to do return message is state.message, and then construct map dispatcher props, and this is going to be our dispatch. And we're going to be return, and we have our button change. For dispatch, we'll type in what the message is. And we can have message change. It's type from the button. Okay. So we'll pass the value over. All right. And now we actually connect as part of our export, and in our connection, we want to do map state props and map dispatch props. All right, now we're going to go in and it's going to be for our new comp. Now we want to switch over. And we're going to just change some of our linking variables here. So instead of to button change, we're going to do props.button change. Otherwise, we won't be able to find it in our code. This is some pathing. And we go ahead and create a new folder. And then this one is going to be our store. And again, this is going to be our Redux store. We're going to call the store reducer.js. And const initial state equals. This is what the default state will be for when the page loads, which will be subscribe to Simplilearn. And then the reducer, we're going to point to where the reducer is. And const new state. And it's going to be an if action dot type. I'm going to change the message. There's our news comp. So that's the action there. We're going to pull that so it's identical. And then new state.message equals thank you for subscribing. So we have the default, and now we have the new message. Again, this might seem like extra work, but it actually makes your whole application much more efficient. Export default, reducer. All right, so make sure we saved all our files, which we have. And now let's go ahead. So we have, let's just inspect everything. It's all looking good. All right. Now terminal window, we're going to do npm start. Let's see what happens. And our web browser should load up. Oh, we have an error. That's good. So now we're learning stuff. And this is all part of standard coding, is just hunting down errors in your code. So let's go to index.js. And looks like we're going to pull in here. So we have reduce, and this should actually be spelled correctly. There we go. Okay, all right, everything is now as it should be. Let's go back, recompile. Let's rerun our file. Do we want to move our file? Let's just go ahead and move the store. I'm going to update all the links to the store. And we're going to be making sure our provider store is referenced correctly. Okay, let's rerun our application. And there we are. So let's go back through. Our application is running much faster now. We're able to manage our changes and elements of our application as different objects. We're able to change the messages after you click, and it's able to then create the new message. Again, this is a very simple application, but you can see how for more complex solutions, how this become useful, and you can start using the different components you create for your whole solution. And that's our demo. So thank you. Hopefully you learned a lot working with Redux with React. We encourage you that if you like this video to hit the subscribe button. We're generating content like this all the time and want to make sure that you get that content. If you really liked this, then please consider hitting the like button below. That really helps when working with the YouTube algorithms to make sure that our videos come up higher. And then finally, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to post in the questions area, in the comments area below. We do read all of them and we do respond to as many as we can. Thanks and have a great day.
Hi there, if you like this video, subscribe to the Simplilearn YouTube channel and click here to watch similar videos. To nerd up and get certified, click here.